hope for Nigeria as OPEC and OPEC Plus agreed to cut oil production amidst COVID-19 crisis. Plus, Christians admonished to intensify prayers to halt COVID-19. These and more on Panorama coming to you today live from Abuja. I'm Elizabeth Omori. We'll be right back. In an unprecedented move to stabilize the global oil market, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its allies, OPEC Plus, as well as other producers, including the United States, have agreed on a supply adjustment of over 19 million barrels per day. The agreement will take effect on the 1st of May and will be for a period of 2 years. OPEC Secretary General Mohamed Barkindo described the extraordinary conference as historic in view of the economic impact of COVID-19, unprecedented slump in the global economy and demand for oil. U.S. President Donald Trump also applauded the move by all, saying that the big oil deals with OPEC Plus is done. He thanked President Putin of Russia and King Salman of Saudi Arabia, saying the OPEC decision will save hundreds of thousands of energy jobs in the United States. OPEC and OPEC Plus share of the adjustment is 9.7 million barrels per day, while the other producers make up the total. Meanwhile, the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, says with the OPEC production cut, Nigeria will have a boost in revenue with prospect of price improvement. The minister spoke to correspondent Onenge Finefist just after the meeting Sunday night.
OPEC, Russia and other oil-producing nations Sunday agreed to cut oil outputs by a record 10% of global supply to support oil prices amid COVID-19 concerns. This cut comes after discussions which lasted 4 days and Mexico's eventual alignment.
And if we cut out a supply of 10 million barrels, we believe that is going to definitely have an impact on the market, and that will be good for Nigeria because it will also mean that we'll earn more from oil.
With this, Nigeria's plummeting fortunes can now have a breather with projected increase in the nation's oil price benchmark for the 2020 budget.
Our benchmark today is $30 per barrel, which means that if prices go up by $15, then we're expecting prices to go up to maybe 45,000 barrels, $45 per barrel, which is good for our budget.
Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, says this increased output for Nigeria would also reflect increase in the product pricing for the country. But by how much? Time will tell. In Abuja, Onenge Finefist, NTA News.
Away from oil and gas, 5 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Nigeria, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 323. Of the new 5 cases, 2 are in Lagos, 2 in Kwara, and 1 in Katsina. Out of the confirmed cases, 85 patients have been discharged and 10 deaths recorded. At a time when Nigeria and indeed the world is rising to the challenge of fighting a common enemy called coronavirus, some Nigerians seem to be taking things rather lightly. So much so that calls to the NCDC's Connect Center are said to be 80% hoax. Let's now join Joseph Johnson for details.
We are so sorry about yes, I can hear you. We are sorry about that, Mr. Chief. The government are looking to this situation.
This is the Connect Center of the NCDC, where all calls concerning the coronavirus pandemic are being received from across the country. Now, these agents here, busy receiving calls, obviously, are proficient in the 3 major Nigerian languages. Now, if a suspected case is identified, further investigations are carried out, and of course, the collated details are sent to the state office where the suspected case has been tracked for immediate evaluation and of course a sample for lab testing.
A minimum of 1,500 of such calls are recorded daily, but 80% are reported to be pranks. This agent told NTA News that most days can be overwhelming, especially as some callers toy with the coronavirus pandemic.
We get other unrelated enquiries, like people calling to say they bought recharge card, it didn't drop on their phone. Some people call to say I need food. Some people call to say I got this number that I can call, I need help, can I get my school fees paid? So we get various kind of enquiries, but basically we respond to public health diseases.
Senior Special Assistant to the Governor of Lagos State on New Media, Gawat Jubril, took to his Twitter account to draw attention to the matter, which elicited different reactions from Nigerians. Calling in is not the only medium made available to Nigerians, though. This man, who is in charge of responding to SMS and messages on WhatsApp platforms, says some of the messages are simply gibberish.
Nigerians sent a lot of messages to this particular platform. Because we have so much messages, sometimes messages are quite overwhelming, so we assign them to different agents. Different agents have do specific tasks.
Although Nigerians are generally perceived to be fun-loving people, even in the face of daunting challenges, but many say continuing with such tendency at this time will only plunge the country into unfathomable despair, because coronavirus is unlike any catastrophe known to mankind. Joseph Johnson, NTA News.
Still on COVID-19, as Christians all over the world mark their Easter celebration, Minister of Labour and Employment Chris Ngige has extended his best wishes and God's protection to Nigerian workers, especially now that the world is confronted with the coronavirus pandemic. The minister in a statement notes that a medical doctor understands the hazards healthcare professionals and workers in various fields are confronted with. The minister extends the appreciation of the federal government to them. The Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, has expressed satisfaction with the level of compliance to the total lockdown in the state necessitated by the coronavirus pandemic. He made this known at the distribution of food items in Owerri as part of palliative measures to ease the difficulties of the stay-at-home order. Bright Ebuchu has details.
The total lockdown in Imo State to prevent the occurrence of COVID-19 is one of the steps taken by the state government, which has also necessitated some level of intervention to enable the people cope with it. Governor Hope Uzodinma, who noted the high level of compliance with the stay-at-home order, appreciated President Muhammadu Buhari's support through the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and others who have contributed in providing support to the Imo State government to enable them cushion the effect of the lockdown. He states that the distribution of the food items have been organized to pass through the 27 local government transition chairmen down to the 305 wards in the state to ensure that it gets to the poor and needy.
The most important task is that this thing must get to the target. It must get to the people who have been ordered to stay at home, who most of them depends on daily income to feed.
Some of the chairmen appreciated the state government, promising that the items will be distributed in line with the governor's directive.
It must get to the targeted audience. It must get to the grassroots. Once I get home today, I'll begin to dispatch.
By this distribution, the Imo State government has promised to continue to put measures in place to ensure that the welfare of the people receives priority attention. In Owerri, Bright Ebuchu, NTA News.
Joining me now via telephone from Mina is the Niger State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Makosidi Mohammed, who will be telling us about the situation in Mina, having recorded its COVID-19 index case. Doctor, it's nice to have you on the news.
Yeah, good afternoon, and good afternoon, Nigerians.
Good afternoon. Now, we learned that the state government has imposed a total lockdown in the state. What measures are in place to contain the spread?
Yeah, thank you very much. Before now, as we used to say in Niger, we do not want to approach this issue with fire brigade approach. We have programs already in place, even before we had recorded our first case. And we've already been observing some partial lockdown. But when this came on board, we now instituted a total lockdown. The measures that have been in place before now, we have structures writing on the previous experiences we had of Ebola and Lassa fever.
Yes.
So a special task force was inaugurated, which is headed by the Secretary to the State Government. and subcommittees have also been put up to ensure full implementation. On that note, we have various subcommittees to enforce implementation of the order or directive given by the state government. Such committees include security, supplies, information, and so on and so forth. So with the advent of this case, we now started implementation by closing our borders, especially entrance to Abuja and Lagos, which are the epicenters.
Yes.
So we man those ends, with also health workers screening, temperature screening on anybody coming into the state. We have also tried to put up isolation centers in the 8 emirate councils in the state. For those larger emirate councils, they have 2. So to a total of 12 quarantine centers.
All right, Doctor. I'd like to quote you there. Rumor has it that the index case patient claims that is not infected with the virus and that he only has some underlying health issues. How true is this?
Yeah, unfortunately, the index says the people that are making such proclamations are not health professionals. The diagnosis is a reserved right of health professionals, and we have protocols followed before you can say this is the diagnosis or that is the diagnosis.
Okay.
First and foremost, in this period of pandemic, there is that history of travel.
Okay.
And travel to a presumed area of infection. Of course, Lagos is already epicenter, so he's coming from Lagos. The second thing is that he exhibited symptoms. The other thing is that investigation was done, and not even by Niger State.
Okay.
It was done by approved world standard NCDC, and we do not have anything regarding any connivance with NCDC on the processing of the result. And even when the result was even made public, in fact, we got it from the air. So secondly, we have the professional touch to say that this is the disease. And unfortunately, it fall into case definition of COVID-19, and that was why we took the sample and it came out positive.
Okay, now what would the government be doing to ensure that proper diagnosis of patients are done with underlying ailments?
Yeah, we are professional health workers. We have been trained in that direction. Before you make a diagnosis, you have the history, the data of the patient, you do clinical examination, you do laboratory investigation. So combining all this gives you the diagnosis of the patient. And this is what we are doing. Our staff have been trained before now, and they're also undergoing several trainings. But if even locals can say that somebody coming from these epicenters should first be subjected to health authorities first. That is even first line of diagnosis. So high index of suspicion is what we call it in medicine.
Okay. Now, there's the issue of contact tracing. How far has the state gone?
Yeah, we've done a lot in that area because the moment we got the information, because the patient was actually with us already on admission, and we have already had discussions with him, and we cordoned the area called the Limawa area in Mina, Niger State, Chanchaka local government, and of course the contact tracing has been ongoing. Despite all the way from Lagos, we can't trace those ones he had contact as far as Lagos. But for us in Niger State, so far we've already made contact to almost between 40-45 contacts already.
All right. Dr. Makosidi Mohammed, thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Niger State Commissioner for Health there, Dr. Makosidi Mohammed. Moving on, with over 1 million cases worldwide and several hundreds in Nigeria, there is no doubt that the coronavirus pandemic is a serious health challenge. With a record of 2 confirmed cases so far in Enugu State, the state government is taking some measures to step up facilities in the health sector in response to the current health challenge in the country. Susan Eze reports on the preparedness of the state to handle the pandemic.
Beyond the planned efforts by state government to upgrade the state health sector, which before now were ongoing, the COVID-19 pandemic has occasioned some drastic measures in the health sector to meet the current health challenges. Presently, 3 health facilities in the state have been designated isolation and treatment centers for COVID-19 patients in the state. They are the Isolation and Treatment Facility in Nsukka, another at the Enugu State University Teaching Hospital, Parkland, and the third one at the recently completed State Diagnostic Center. To strengthen the state's preparedness and response plan to the COVID-19, government had approved the sum of 330 million naira to procure personal protective equipment, train the needed manpower in the health sector, procure essential drugs and consumables, as well as some medical equipment.
I'm happy to inform you that our isolation center at Parkland Specialist Hospital is fully functional with all the required medical equipment and materials and manpower that is required there. The additional ambulances and incident vehicles are all purchased and are in front of that hospital now.
Following the current lockdown and decontamination of markets and public places and the ongoing sensitization of the populace on the pandemic, many residents are aware of the situation and its economic implications.
I'm a medical personnel, so I'm aware of it.
The only available solution, which is lockdown. When you lock down, people don't move, workers don't go to work, businesses are not moving. So it's a terrible situation.
While the state government continues to equip its arsenal against COVID-19, confirmed cases in the state remains 2. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
If you just joined us, you're watching Panorama on NTA. Let's take a break now. More to come when we return. Welcome back. Today is Easter Monday, and Christians continue the celebration of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says now is the time for the people to be closer to God and renew their faith in His ability to deliver and heal the country of any diseases. The Vice President, in his Easter sermon delivered online to the church in Nigeria, titled "Criminals on the Cross," notes that people are saved by grace and not by work. Salvation, as he says, is a gift and not a reward. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, in the message of hope, describes Easter as very important to the people of faith, which would continue to be celebrated under any circumstances.
This day is very special, a very, very special day in the Christian calendar, because it is the morning of the resurrection, the day that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. And we're going to celebrate this day, and we'll keep celebrating it because it is the evidence of our salvation, the evidence of our redemption.
Nigeria is secured. Our leaders are secured. Every one of us watching me, you are secured.
Chaplain of the Asovila Chapel, Pastor Sheyi Malomo, says that God's intervention to bring an end to the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria and across the globe is needed. The Oba of Benin, Omo Nobanedo Ukwakpolokpolo, Oba Ewa II, and the Benin Traditional Council are felicitating with Christian faithful on the occasion of the 2020 Easter celebration. In a statement by the Secretary of the Council, Frank Irabo, Oba Ewa enjoined Christians to emulate the lessons of Easter and pray for God's intervention in order to end the COVID-19 pandemic. The reality of the coronavirus pandemic and the associated lockdown in most states of the country have affected the celebration of Easter for the first time in recent history.
In Oka, Ngozi Okekiaru reports that Christians could not dress in their Sunday best and take regal steps to churches for Easter service as they worshipped in the confines of their homes.
You know the book of Job, I said, the thing that I feared now come to me. When you fear death will come to you. But when you stand as a child of God, knowing that there is power in the resurrection, there is resurrection power, the power that raised Jesus from the dead, that power is able to quicken your body.
The situation is similar in Imo State, where residents are reported to have celebrated Easter behind closed doors.
Globally, we are facing a global crisis for the COVID-19. The Church of God is supposed to be praying and interceding that God will heal our nation.
This virus, we believe that very soon it will be over. So all we have to do now is continue to pray and trust in God.
And in Minna, the Niger State capital, the message of Easter came to Christians in an admonition not to live in fear despite current situation in the country, but trust in the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Supreme Islamic Council for Islamic Affairs is felicitating with Nigerian Christians on the occasion of Easter celebration. In a statement by the secretary of the body, the Islamic group says the significance of Easter, which symbolizes rebirth, renewal, and reawakening, is more compelling now that the world battles COVID-19, which is impacting human lifestyle and religious worship. The NSCIA joins Christians to pray to God for the renewal of righteousness and devotion at this time and prays for more celebration in good health. Away from Easter messages, global sports continue to